Do you challenge your negative thoughts? Today, I want to talk a little about this idea of challenging negative thoughts. What does it mean exactly? How does it work? What are its shortcomings? And is it useful? If you've just discovered me, I'm Maral, a clinical hypnotherapist, and I practice a neuroscience-based hypnotherapy which empowers people to make practical, positive changes and get the best out of themselves. And I like to spread well-being as best I can by sharing thoughts, tips, and concepts which I consider valuable in these bite-sized formats. So diving right in, what do we mean by challenging negative thoughts? Well, even if you haven't heard this term as such, if you're into therapy or self-help or mindset shifting, you may well have come across this concept from various popular sources, from Byron Katie to Louise Hay to Tony Robbins. You can even find it in Buddhism. And this concept of challenging negative thoughts is actually also a fundamental principle in CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. And be it in the therapeutic, self-help, or even spiritual context, in essence, it's intended to help a person break free from destructive thinking patterns by first noticing negative thoughts, becoming aware that it's there. Often we don't even notice. And not stopping there, but challenging it, asking things like, how true is this? What's the evidence for or against this thing which I seem to hold so true? And then looking at alternative possibilities, different scenarios that could be true. And finally, seeing what can be done in practice. The idea is that by catching and challenging the validity of the thought and seeing that may not be the only truth, you at least weaken the thought and hopefully even drop it altogether. So by challenging a negative thought, somebody could go, for example, from the thought, I don't have any friends, to I have some good people that I enjoy in my life and I'm open to taking steps to make more connections. This statement feels much better, right? And could actually be objectively more accurate than the voice of upset and resignation that says, I don't have any friends. But to get from thought A to thought B, things need to be poked at a bit, questions asked to challenge thought A. And although there are different methods, in any case, there would be steps that move you to the more positive thought. Some methods, like Byron Katie's The Work, have set questions. In therapy, the questions are much less formulaic, but still have clearly definable steps to reframe the negative thought. To give you a feel for how this would work, let's look at a scenario of someone who has a negative thought, I'm not good at relationships. To see how true this is, we might ask, is there any evidence that contradicts this idea? Let's say we get the reply, well, yes, sometimes relationships go well for a while, so I feel positive, but so far they've always ended up in a breakup, so I just can't seem to make them work, obviously. So here we can see that there is evidence of the contrary, but the focus and emotions remain in that I can't make it work. So the next stage then would be to try to shift this focus, to change the perspective. For example, by asking, is it possible that there were other external factors that contributed to the breakups and that it wasn't solely about your abilities in the relationship? And here we may discover that there were in fact other issues like work stresses, family interferences, and the other person's behaviors. So now that the perspective is a bit more open, the next stage is to think of putting something positive into practice. So now we might ask, what positive actions would build your confidence in your relationship skills? And this might lead to the idea, I can be more open with my feelings and communicate better. Or I can give myself credit for the good things I've brought to past relationships. These bring us to the final stage of the reframing that original negative thought to something more positive and practical, like I'm learning and growing in my relationships and I can improve my communication skills. So now we have something that feels okay. That critical tone, that feeling of stuckness is replaced with the feeling things are okay and I can do something about making them even better. And these two feelings are so important for our well-being. The feeling that things are okay soothes the nervous system and brings that constructive thinking brain back online. And the feeling that I can do something, that sense of agency, is essential for us to feel worthwhile and to keep moving forward. In Buddhism, challenging negative thoughts is not so much about a series of questions at all, but it comes about more through the practice of a combination of principles. The principle of mindfulness, as in becoming aware of what thoughts are running through your mind. The principle of non-attachment, as in not clinging to or identifying with thoughts as truth, which reduces the emotional intensity. And the principle of compassion and loving kindness, having compassion and kindness for yourself and generating positive thoughts. All of these principles and more combined can lead to reframing and releasing negative thoughts through spiritual practice over time. So you can do it in many different ways. Whatever is right for you, there are many paths. Of course, like any tool, challenging negative thoughts has its shortcomings. It's not always suitable for all situations. It's not right for everybody. For some people, it's too up in the head, or the shift in the thoughts might not drop into the feelings level and into the subconscious enough to override old patterns. Sometimes a person is too caught up in the drama of it to even want to entertain different thoughts. Or even if a person wants to, there may be underlying issues which challenging the negative thoughts alone cannot address, like if there is trauma or personality disorders. And like many things, learning to challenge your own negative thoughts takes practice, so actually it may be easier to do it with somebody trained to ask the right questions. But when conditions are right and a person is ready to choose their well-being, it can be a really helpful tool to learn to practice, because it can reduce the anxiety or lows that can be stirred up by negative thoughts. It can be a reality check, and it can really encourage positive behavior and agency, as in you end up hopefully ready and willing to do something to help yourself. And if you get used to applying it, it really strengthens resilience, because less things will faze you. So you'll be less afraid of negative stuff and very likely more at peace with life, knowing that you'll figure it out. You've done it before, you can do it again. You may even come to see challenges as opportunities for growth rather than insurmountable obstacles. However, I should add that in my experience, willpower alone can often be a slower route to change than when conscious action is combined with the power of the subconscious working with you to create change. And that's where solution-focused hypnotherapy can really boost progress. You may have heard me say before, with clarity about what you want for yourself, some persistence, a well-rounded approach, and some good support in your corner, it's very possible to make all sorts of positive and even amazing changes in life. And that's all for today. Always share if you like what you hear, because you never know who you may be helping out. And as usual, if you'd like some support with the added benefit of hypnosis to ease your process, you can easily book yourself in for a consultation from wherever in the world, thanks to video meetings. And of course, there'll be more thoughts and tips soon. Till then, be good to yourself.